Welcome back. A lot of eyes are on California's 49th congressional district because, well, as many as 14 candidates are eyeing the seat there. Probably 10, 12 running for election, we'll see. But a couple months ago, longtime incumbent Darrell Issa announced he is stepping down, and that has caused the rush on the place. And with us today, one of his want-to-be successors, Democrat Mike Levin, an environmental attorney who lives in San Juan Capistrano. And not counting self-contributions, he has raised more campaign funds than his rivals, $1.2 million, and he got 53% of the endorsements at the state Democratic convention here. Welcome, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And why should voters cast their ballot for you? We've been hearing from a lot of these candidates, and we're going to hear from more. Why you, sir?
Well, I think for too long we've had a representative in Darrell Issa. He's the wealthiest member of Congress, and he's really out of sync with the values of so many working families in our district. And I think if you want somebody who's actually going to fight for working families in Congress, maybe you should hire somebody who's part of a working family. My wife and I are normal people. You know, the Union Tribune had a story saying of all the candidates in 49, we were actually the poorest. My wife wasn't thrilled with that assessment, but nevertheless, you've got multimillionaires that are running on both sides. And I don't think this is a plutocracy. I don't think this is government by the wealthy. I think we need a strong grassroots candidate who's going to represent the people and bring the seat back to the people. That's how we've run our campaign. You mentioned that we've raised $1.2 million. Just as important as how we've done it, Gene, we've had over 13,000 grassroots contributions from all across the country. There's nothing that can substitute for the power of the grassroots. And we're going to take that grassroots money and we're going to turn right around and run a grassroots campaign communicating with all the voters of this district. We've already knocked and walked on every single Democratic and declined to state household in this district. We're going to do it again in the next 95 days before June 5th.
You've got to be optimistic about your polling. The most recent I see here puts you in fourth, but you don't think that that was properly, let's just say, carried out.
Well, the poll that was just done by Flip the 49th, which was an independent poll of any of the campaigns, basically shows a four-way tie for first place. And for those who aren't in that four-way tie, I think they should seriously consider the future of their candidacy. We've got to narrow down the field to the very top candidates, and I think that our campaign, all the grassroots support, we've got 8 members of Congress that have endorsed us, Adam Schiff being the first, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Congressional Progressive Caucus. I know ours is the campaign with the momentum and the organization to win.
27% who were undecided at that time. 95 days left to go.
95 days left to go. It's going to be a sprint to the finish, and I know we've got the infrastructure and the organization and the folks who are passionate about flipping this district and restoring it to the people. That's what we're going to do.
Do you have the same feel that the pollsters say that economy, affordable housing, homelessness, immigration, healthcare, education, those are still first and foremost, or you put them in first, second, third, fourth, and fifth and sixth, but at least those are foremost concerns on the table here in front of the constituents?
Well, when you think about the 49th district, it's a beautiful coastal district, right. A lot of affluence, very well educated in most of the district, but we also have 2,000 homeless people, and so many cannot make ends meet. You know, affordable housing is a critical issue, and we've got to fully fund our affordable housing programs. In our district, for a one-bedroom apartment, $1,500 or $2,000 a month is simply too much for most working families to afford. And what I've seen from Washington, D.C. is an attack on working people. We've got to restore good working class jobs. We've got to expand our middle class. We need things like clean energy and infrastructure. My background over the last decade, I've worked as a clean energy advocate and an environmental attorney, getting things passed across both the state and federal aisle with Republican support for very progressive ideals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to improve energy efficiency, to expand electric vehicle deployment. That creates great, high-skilled, high-wage jobs in our communities, and that's exactly what I intend to do if I'm so honored to serve.
You have checked those boxes. Now, I have seen some video, and I've seen some pictures of the encampments along the Santa Ana River. Who would have thought that in Orange County? We tend to think of that as a prosperous place. Sure, Los Angeles, Skid Row, but Orange County?
Well, much like San Diego County, wealth inequality is a huge issue. And what you have in the 49th district are so many people that are struggling to make ends meet. They're one medical emergency away from not being able to pay their bills or going bankrupt, buried in student loan debt or high interest credit card debt. And I really get upset when I see people who have served our country come back and they get taken advantage of by predatory lenders or others that are looking to make a quick buck off those who've served. We've got to stand up and speak against those who are involved in predatory lending, who are involved in taking advantage of those most vulnerable. I don't see the Trump administration doing it. I certainly don't see Darrell Issa do it. And I think the men and women of this district, we will come together around those values to keep the working class strong, to continue to grow our economic base, and ultimately to prosper in a new economy with new industries like life sciences and biotechnology and clean energy. It's an amazing district that we live in, Gene, and we have to take it back for the people.
Thanks for joining us, Mike Levin. And you know that with Camp Pendleton right in the middle here, it's very military oriented, and so you're going to be keeping your eye on that. Still to come, where will San Diego State find a new permanent home for its football team? There's some intense politicking going on. Stay tuned.